Speaking on the economic challenges facing Australia, Senator Walsh detailed the need for government and the business sector to correct the imbalance in Australia's international payments position. He says the 1950s, 60s and 70s gave us an economy heavily dependent on foreign exchange earnings, putting us in a vulnerable position with changing world markets. Now the Minister says we need to produce more of the goods we consume and be more internationally competitive. And on the issue of tax cuts...
The decision about the quantum of tax cuts will be made early in 1989, and the implementation date, the Treasurer has already announced, and the Prime Minister will be the 1st of July.
I understand.
According to agents LJ Hooker, about 500 turned up to bid on the 35 blocks of land, and they came with checkbooks at the ready. The auction cost around $20,000 a stage. LJ Hooker, gambling that demand for the properties would warrant the expense. That gamble paid off and bidding was fierce.
63,000 twice, all done. Sold you 63, congratulations, give him a clap too.
Each block ended up selling it well above its reserve, some by as much as $20,000. At the end of the day, Sydney-based developer Coastal Pacific Consolidated, which sold the land, was $2.3 million better off. The parade featured almost all aspects of the city's communal life, as well as a good smattering of the historical. No bicentennial procession could be complete without its complement of veteran and vintage cars. Those old-timers were just part of a wide range of vehicles making up the display. Some were smaller than others, but just as effective in getting between A and B. Amongst the most popular entrants, however, were the firefighters, although that could have had something to do with their habit of practicing their art on the crowd.
The people of Wollombi are proud of the part their village played in opening up the Hunters' heartland, and there are many links with the past still evident in the historic township. Today the years rolled back as the locals vividly recreated times gone by. About 150 townsfolk took part in the pageant, dressed in the costumes and trappings of Wollombi in days when big gangs and bullock carts were commonplace. Organisers say the Bicentennial treat is the biggest the village has seen since its last Back to Wollombi celebrations in 1970. The parade signalled the start of a day of activities along pioneering themes, and proceeds will go towards a number of community groups, including local schools and bushfire brigades. Celebrations were also being conducted further afield at Rutherford, where the Royal Newcastle Aero Club was having a birthday. The club's 60th Jubilee has already been recognised in spectacular fashion by their recent air show, but today the club members put on a more quiet function to mark the date, including a modest program of activities in the air. Among the visitors, two space pioneers, Australia's first space shuttle passenger, Paul Scully Powers, and Soviet cosmonaut Nikolai Rushkinov. Both were guest speakers at a birthday dinner party in Newcastle last night. The cosmonaut and two other members of the Soviet space program presented medallions to their host for the visit, Kevin Welding, during the luncheon at his private airstrip.
Within a fortnight, the seat of Port Stephens will be decided. Ousted former Labor member Bob Martin hopes one of the major issues will be the state of the Nelson Bay Road. Shadow Transport Minister Laurie Brereton today condemned the Greiner government's record. He said in February the Premier publicly pledged to make rebuilding the road a priority issue. Instead, this financial year's budget papers reveal money won't be allocated until 1994.
The performance by Nick Greiner on this road is the sort of performance that gives politicians a bad name.
If the roads are so bad, why didn't you fix them when you were Minister for Roads?
Well, the fact is that both the Labor Party and the Liberals recognised the priority that needed to be given to the road. And it was for that reason that the Labor Party committed itself last year to giving priority to the works. And it was Mr Greiner who countered that with a commitment of his own, a commitment that is now dishonoured.
But given how long Labor was in government, I mean, if through the Liberal government we can have the road fixed in 6 years, well, that's not too bad compared to Labor's record.
I just say this to you. We're very proud of the work that we've done on roads throughout New South Wales, but we recognise clearly that Port Stephens deserve better.
But politics isn't all hard work. After meeting the media, Laurie Brereton and Bob Martin joined a lunchtime cruise on the volunteer coastal patrol vessel, the Garryowen. Having fired the first salvo in Labor's bid to retain Port Stephens, they're confident the campaign will be smooth sailing.
The Surf League was held in small waves at Bondi on Sunday. 16 teams from around Australia competing first through four-man heats and then special tag team semi-finals and finals. The tag event involves 5 surfers from each team. The first surfer catches 4 waves as quickly as possible, surfs to the beach and tags his next teammate to enter the water. The aim is for the whole team to catch 20 waves in an hour time limit.
Really, you've only got about 12 minutes to catch 4 waves and every wave counts.
The finals were a tight struggle between Merewether and the Bondi ITN team. So tight it was a draw. Merewether's Simon Law and Bondi's Shane Horan having to surf off, with Simon outpointing the Bondi surfer. It was a team effort, with all 10 surfers in the team, including coach Mark Richards, playing important roles in the victory. The club does have the experience of the professional surfers, but also young surfers coming through the ranks and competing with their idols. What's so special about this Merewether club?
Well, Merewether, we've got Mark Richards, 4 times world champion, Nicky and Luke and myself, who are professional surfers, and every day we surf out at Merewether and practice together, and it's a real tight club.
Hexham Engineering has been operating since the turn of the century, specialising in the manufacture and overhaul of mining machinery, mainly for its parent company, Coal and Allied. To create entirely new facilities for this type of heavy industry has been a massive project for building contractor W. Stronach. Raising the site above flood level has taken more than 100,000 tonnes of fill. Constructing the huge sheds, which will ultimately tackle national and international contracts, has been an equal challenge.
It's a major project in the heavy engineering field. For our company, it's the biggest project we've completed, particularly in the project management field.
The buildings also represent a dramatic change in work practices. The hangars will be integrated workshops instead of scattered buildings catering to the different guilds. Hexham Engineering say the design will eliminate an old spectre haunting Australian industry, demarcation. 18 months ago, the plant had 12 times the national average for industrial disputes. Now they have hardly a complaint. With the guidance of the Metal Workers Union, the company has drawn up its own industrial agreement with the workers, registered through the Arbitration Commission. They've agreed to create new working structures.
Well, I guess a lot of industrial relations are a function of employees trusting employers and vice versa. We're starting to treat our employees considerably different, or a lot different to the way we used to. And in turn, they're trusting us a little more. A large element of our industrial agreement is retraining of all of our employees. We've undertaken to provide and pay for 5% of their normal working time in retraining to enable them to upgrade their skills and to get more job satisfaction.
And that's partly why the building contractors have included many features in the new site, including a bathhouse for workers, floor heating in the sheds and extra insulation from summer heat. The building is a symbol of the new industrial relations project, but Hexham Engineering believes it will also be the site for a more aggressive move to put Australia at the front of international heavy engineering.
Looking at
Australia was that there was, as was called then, I'm sure as he has described, a thing called...
What do we want? No fees! When do we want it? Now! What do we want? No fees! When do we want it? Now!
Mr. Schiff handed a cheque for $658,000 to the Vice-Chancellor of the University, Professor Keith Morgan. The state government has provided the grant to assist in the establishment of a building degree course to be offered by the university in 1990. The money will also be used towards the introduction of an external course at the University of New England in Armidale. It is to be run in conjunction with the Newcastle University and is the first of its type in Australia. The state government decision to introduce the degree in Newcastle will allow potential builders and those already in the industry to gain professional qualifications without travelling to Sydney. The full-time course at Newcastle will be located within the Faculty of Architecture, with 25 students being offered places each year. First-year students can rarely claim the head of the nation's finances amongst their lecturers, but a capacity crowd of 750 students today enjoyed that privilege. The coup was the work of Barry Hughes, Professor of Economics at Newcastle University and a former member of the Treasurer's staff. In his articulate and off-the-cuff address, Mr Keating spent an hour discussing Australia's economy with the undergraduates, clearly in his element. As he left the university grounds, a handful of protesters were demonstrating against the introduction of the tertiary tax. But their number was small and their message was clearly ignored. Next stop was a businessman's club lunch. Again, Mr Keating emphasised his belief in the direction the economy is taking. He also expressed hope that Labor is slowly wooing back voters in regions of heavy industry, including the Hunter.
They would be wastelands without the federal Labor government. Without the policies of this government, these places would be wastelands. The fundamental structural changes we're making will underpin these places in the long term. They'll give them a future in the long term, not just on some mining boom which will come and go 3 years later, but a long-term future. And you can see that the confidence and the employment levels and the investment gradually picking up on a long-term basis.
In a varied itinerary, the Treasurer took time out to visit the Newcastle Taxation Office and to attend a private meeting of the Labor Party faithful at the Newcastle Leagues Club. From addressing students to colleagues, it had the makings of an unusual day, but one he clearly enjoyed.
It's got a bit of a buzz. A bit of a buzz.
Hunter viewers will have the chance to see a little more of the man behind the austere image in a special interview with Newsnight at 10:30 on NBN.
Tomorrow's court hearing may well be the beginning of the end of a battle that has been looming between agents and Maitland City Council for some time. After a series of confrontations over facilities at the yards, agent John Comerford recently decided to take the yards on himself, putting in a tender for $505,000 for their purchase. Then, from out of the blue, came another tender based around Raymond Terrace agent John Ledbury, whose final offer of $552,000 was accepted by council just over 4 weeks ago. The agents say the new owner quickly cut off their rights to the use of the yards, but after lengthy and heated negotiations, reversed that decision, instead installing a levy. That was when the court action came in. Last Friday, the agents served an injunction on council, effectively stopping the sale and resulting in tomorrow's hearing. That's expected to end in a date being set for another hearing, probably many months into the future, during which the agents will remain the legal tenders and operations will continue as normal. They had originally held the lease to the end of '89 anyway. Maitland City Council had little comment on the issue today, though it is known Mayor Peter Blackmore was asked to go to Sydney last week by local government minister David Hay to explain how the matter had wound up in court.
clear skies, a calm lake, the Wanji Queen and 155 excited youngsters. Put them together and you have one of the week's most memorable activities. The cruise was organised by the Stockton Hospital Special School, and many of the developmentally disabled pupils from it and 3 other special schools taking part obviously enjoyed their rare experience. The jaunt did have a serious side, however. The day was designed to promote awareness of developmentally disabled children and encourage interaction with others their age. For that reason, students from Spears Point Primary School also took part in the cruise and joined the other youngsters for a picnic lunch at Toronto. Meanwhile, at Lambton, the Newcastle Playgroups Association was celebrating Children's Week with its traditional fun day in the park. The day has become an institution not to be missed by any self-respecting 0 to 6-year-old. After all, where else can you assess the latest rescue equipment, take a train to parts unknown, or just watch the world go round? As usual, the advanced cooking classes were a big hit, the results nothing to be sneezed at, limited as they were only by the imagination.
Lisa, what are you cooking?
A cake.
What sort of cake?
Chocolate.
What are you having? The fun day also offers the chance to change identity. Perhaps it is a jungle out there, but Jay, for one, will be ready.
I'm a tiger.
Face painting was a big draw card at yet another children's activity held today, this time at the Newcastle Harbour Foreshore. To commemorate Children's Week, the Hunter Caravan Project, which conducts programs for families who live in caravan parks, organised an afternoon of entertainment. Families came from 10 parks as far away as Cessnock and Belmont to take part in the games and barbecue tea. And although the wind didn't make life any easier for the chefs, it certainly helped along the kite flying competition. Despite the difficult elements, organisers were happy with the turnout and hoped to make the afternoon an annual event.
Look at Lindy Walker on a horse and you'd probably say she was born to ride, and she just about was. Her mother, Maureen, says Lindy rode before she walked, going out on big cattle roundups perched in front of her dad. By 4, she was at her first show, and at 24, she's probably the hottest thing on the show circuit today. These ribbons, trophies and medals justify that, and unbelievably, they were all won at the same show, this year's Melbourne Royal. All of them look impressive, certainly, but for Lindy and her mother, the most special of all is the blue sash and trophy of the Garryowen winner. It's about the most prestigious lady rider event in Australia and attracts more than 100 of the best each year, judged on the finest detail, from grooming, both horse and rider, to riding and even the stitching on the saddle.
All you can do is get out and try and hope for the best. And so the judges vary a lot too, you know, they vary from what sort of horse they like, and a lot of them just go on work and a lot of them just go on the quality of the horse, you know, as long as they don't play up too badly.
Lindy was aboard Marty on that special day, her 9-year-old thoroughbred gelding, who she says can take much of the credit for her success, although admits he isn't always the perfect example of what a good show horse should be.
He's a very difficult horse, and he had 5.5 hours work just for that one event, the Garryowen, but he's taken 3 years to get him to where he is now.
The Chambers of Commerce meet once a year, always until now, in a capital city. The conference is widely recognised as an important event, and the Newcastle Chamber achieved a coup in securing the Bicentennial gathering. Delegates from 18 chambers, including 2 from New Zealand, attended the conference, which was opened by Governor-General Sir Ninian Stephen. The 3 days featured addresses by numerous well-known speakers representing the government, trade unions, big business and farmers. Michael Tooth, Vice President of the National Farmers Federation and President of the New South Wales Farmers Association, took the opportunity to hit out at groups he says are slowing Australia's growth. Tooth on unions.
They are only powerful if you let them be. Restrictive work practices within the transport industry and on the waterfront are estimated to cost this nation $10 to $12 million each year.
And
This is
Tucson
equal to our current
politicians.
account deficit. Our thinking should not be restricted by politicians who once elected, determined policies at variance with their parties and or their electorate's wishes or requirements. These people are men and women of expediency who are more interested in PPP than Australia's future. And PPP stands for Permanent Perpetuation of Own Position.
Despite the hard words, however, it was obvious Tooth was enjoying the relatively strong state of Australia's agricultural industries, and he told the assembled business minds Australia's future still rides on the land, not the silicon chip.
The primary industry and other efficient industries will continue to contribute to Australia. The only risk to us is that we are forced to continue to subsidise other inefficient industries and thus not be able to spend enough money on research and development. Because agriculture has all the component parts of being the biggest and best of the new high-tech industries in Australia today.
Says, I'll take the lead.
A handy
Garrett
lead in
goes
the
through on
Challenge
the
Cup
inside
series,
and
and
takes
the
up the running from
$30,000
Ron
prize
Levin
money
Jr.
is sure
Tries
to
to come
produce
back
some
on the
fast and
inside.
furious
Bit of
action when the
Garrett
flags
Jones
fall at the
moving in
Motor
front of
Drome
him.
tomorrow
Cassidy
night.
needs to move
And
round
certain
the
to be in the
outside
thick of
even
it
now.
all
Easter
is
goes
Curry-based
up to
New South
third.
Wales champion John Pine, pictured here in
And
a
Easter
recent
is the
meeting
man
in the
looking
yellow
to try
pit
and
crew
get
number
clear
1
of
car,
Mal Pring and
displaying
set
his
out
usual
after the leader,
aggressive style.
Bernard Roberts.
He'll be up against
Roberts
some stiff
leading.
competition from the
Ron
likes of
Latham
brother Ron
has,
Pine and ACT
caused a
driver
real-
Tony Bozzo. The solo riders will also be turning on the action tomorrow night, and all eyes will be on Cessnock super soloist Chris Watson, who's back in fine form despite this nasty spill a short while ago.
This family reunion at Maryland marks the end of a separation which lasted for more than half a century. It's also a tribute to some diligent detective
When was
work
that
by
taken?
Coffs Harbour woman Irina
taken
Brooks.
spring
3
chicken.
years ago,
I don't
her
think the fella
70-year-old
really
mother made a startling
No,
admission.
I didn't like him,
The
mate.
sight of a baby at christening revived a
Yes,
memory
about
she had
25.
blotted from her past.
After the christening of my son, she went on to say, after looking down at Jacob and saying, this is my other son, and then she said, but I had a son. She said, where's my other son?
Well, that's right.
Suddenly, Irina had an older brother somewhere whom she'd never met. He was the product of a brief, unhappy marriage in a time that mother Doreen had all but forgotten.
I understood he'd been adopted, and I couldn't have any say, or I didn't know who to. I just thought it was some relative, and that's all I sort of knew.
Meanwhile, Norman O'Sullivan grew up, moving from foster care to homes, hoping one day to find his mother. He almost gave up hope when, on the eve of his marriage, he found that a vital link, his birth certificate, was lost.
We wrote away for it and they sent back, I've got a copy here somewhere but I can't find it, the wife had it. And they said, oh, as far as we're concerned, he said, you don't exist. He said, well, we got information.
While Norman settled down to raise a family of his own, Irina carried on her search. Thanks to police motor traffic files, she came up with the name and the post office box number. So she wrote and included her phone number. Norm was stunned, too nervous to return the call.
I said to the wife, you ring up, I'm not going to ring up. So I had to go outside there because the electrician bloke was out there and we're talking, and when I come back in, the wife was crying. And I was thinking the worst, you know. Mum died, you know. That was...
But as it turns out, it was good news.
Yep. He's still here.
Good on you, mate.
And now, in the autumn of her years, Doreen not only has her son back, but a whole new family.
So how does it feel now to have him back in the family?
Oh, wonderful. I've got all 17 grandchildren now.
Okay, that's great. Thanks very much. Okay.